The case of Jonathan Majors may be the fastest rise and fall of an actor ever before witnessed. As a Yale graduate, Majors would have his start in film with 2017's Hostiles and in TV with 2017's When We Rise. However, he would gain more notoriety with his role in 2019's The Last Black Man in San Francisco and 2020's Lovecraft Country. These two roles would catch the eye of Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, who offered Majors the role of He Who Remains in Loki. Originally a separate and unique character, He Who Remains was later written to be a variant of Kang the Conqueror. Majors would then be offered the role of Kang and his infinite number of variants. With deals to star in ads for the US Army, a new Creed movie with Michael B. Jordan, and a negotiated $20 million payday for his role in Avengers 5, Jonathan Majors was rising very fast. His performance as He Who Remains left fans wanting more, and despite Ant-Man 3's mixed reception, even the negative reviews reserved praise for his performance. With everything seemingly going his way, it would take just one action to potentially take it all away.
One of Hollywood's fastest rising stars was arrested over the weekend here in New York in what police call a domestic dispute.
On March 25th of this year, Jonathan Majors was arrested in New York City on charges of assault, strangulation, and harassment. The victim in this case was Majors' now ex-girlfriend, which sent the public into a frenzy over the thought that this up-and-coming and beloved actor may be guilty of domestic violence. While everyone is innocent until proven guilty, that rule applies to the court of law, and not to Twitter. Usually when someone is accused of doing something like this, a cesspool like Twitter is filled with people proclaiming their guilt and innocence while next to zero facts are available about the case. However, both sides in this instance had something to point to that could help support their position. For those supporting Majors, they could point to his attorney who claimed that Majors was not only innocent but actually the victim in this situation, and that they had video evidence and text messages to prove it. For those who were more inclined to believe Majors may be guilty in full or at least in part, there at least appeared to be warning signs that showed this was not a recent development. In the month prior to Majors' arrest, filmmaker A.B. Allen tweeted, quote, "There's a particular actor, relatively new on the scene, who Twitter has violently fallen head over heels for, who, in actuality, is a vicious, cruel, abusive human being, both professionally and in his personal life." Though this tweet has since been deleted, when news of the arrest broke, someone asked Allen if this was indeed about Majors, to which Allen replied with ding ding ding. Allen would not be the only one to come forward and share their experience with Majors. Tim Nicolai, a Society Theater co-founder and Broadway actor and director, said the following, quote, "I'm just gonna say this about Jonathan Majors and be done with it. Folks at Yale and the broader NYC community have known about him for years. He's a sociopath and abuser, and that is how virtually everyone speaks about him. It's a shame it took this long for him to be reported." These comments undoubtedly came as a shock to fans and onlookers who have no relationship with Majors beyond how they see him in media, though it also set off those who still believed him to be innocent. When questioned about why neither of them came forward before, both Allen and Nicolai gave similar replies. In short, neither of them wanted to tell the story of victims that was not theirs to tell. They did not want to bring them into the light of what is now a major controversy in the public sphere, and stand by the claim that coming forward was not their action to take. To hopefully all of you, this is understandable, but for others it will still feel like a cop-out or a convenient excuse. Personally, I believe that line of criticism is devoid of empathy. However, everyone will digest and process information however they please. The day after his initial arrest, the US Army ads in which Majors starred in were pulled from the air, which on its own does not prove neither guilt nor innocence. Given the severity of the allegations, it's not unreasonable for this ad campaign to be halted until the investigation and court proceedings are concluded. Still, many maintain that Majors was innocent and hope that his attorney could clear the air sooner rather than later. 5 days after his initial arrest, his attorney would attempt to do just that. On March 30th, an attorney for Jonathan Majors released text messages that they claimed proved his innocence. These messages are purported to be between Majors and the victim, and his attorney claimed that the text messages show the victim admitted to being the one to use physical force against Majors. The only issue here is that the texts released show no such thing. At 6 p.m., Majors received the following text from the victim. "Please let me know you're okay when you get this. They assured me that you won't be charged. They said they had to arrest you as protocol when they saw the injuries on me and they knew we had a fight. I'm so angry that they did, and I'm sorry you're in this position. We'll make sure nothing happens about this. I told them it was my fault for trying to grab your phone. I only just got out of the hospital. Just call me when you're out. I love you." The victim would follow up at 9:32 p.m. with, "They just called again to check on me and I reiterated how this was not an attack and they do not have my blessing on any charges being placed. I read the paper they gave me about strangulation and I said point blank this did not occur and should be removed immediately. The judge is definitely going to be told this. She ensured this to me. I know you have the best team and there's nothing to worry about. I just want you to know I'm doing all I can on my end. I also said to tell the judge to know the origin of the call was to do with me collapsing and passing out and your worry as my partner due to our communication prior. Out of care. She promised all will be relayed. Now I'm no detective, nor do I work in law enforcement, but I do have a degree in criminal justice, and when I saw these texts, I was baffled. His attorney released these under the pretense that it would not only exonerate Majors and prove his innocence, but that it would prove the victim was the one to use physical force against him. But these texts just don't show that at all. The victim does not admit to being the one to use physical force, and the victim does not deny that a fight took place. They actually say that it did. She claims that she told police the call to 911 was not in relation to an altercation. However, she does admit that they did have a fight, that police observed injuries on her, and that she was sent to the hospital to be cleared of any other or lasting injuries. The most damning part of these texts comes in the part where the victim is trying to apologize to Majors by saying that this whole debacle is her fault because she tried to take his phone. According to reports from the day of the initial arrest, the altercation in question took place when a woman tried to grab his phone. This seems to confirm that report, but not only that. The line, "I told him it was my fault for trying to grab your phone," reads to me like textbook victim talk. For a myriad of different reasons, victims of domestic violence stuck in abusive relationships may downplay the severity of their partner's actions toward them, and even blame themselves for being physically assaulted. If Majors did indeed assault her after she tried to grab his phone, the victim may sincerely believe that it was her fault and she could have avoided the incident if she hadn't tried to grab his phone. At the same time, the victim may not believe this sincerely and may simply be trying to avoid further conflict by assuring Majors that she's trying her hardest to make sure the charges go away. Both of these types of messaging and signaling are very common in domestic disputes, and this type of thinking and rationale can be formed after extended periods of physical, mental, and emotional abuse. Given the fast rise of Majors' career, the victim may also feel guilty for contributing to its immediate decline. All of this is just speculation, but it is important to keep this in mind when you consider the very limited facts about this case. Even if you disregard all of this speculation, the fact remains that the texts do not prove his innocence, nor do they prove the guilt of the victim, as his attorney claimed. Following his initial appearance in court, Majors was seen wearing a hat with the word freedom written on it twice. The public and the media immediately began speculating on what it means, if anything at all. However, it is not hard to imagine that Majors intentionally wore it as a sort of unspoken statement regarding his innocence. Majors will not appear in court again until May 8, and following the release of the text messages, there was little to no update on the situation until April 17th, when it was announced that Majors had been dropped by his talent manager, Entertainment 360. Not only that, but Majors had reportedly been dropped by his PR agency, The Lead Company. While not as significant, the same report claimed the designer brand Valentino reached a mutual agreement with Majors which would see him not attend the Met Gala this year as one of its guests. To make matters worse, it was reported the following day that Majors was being dropped from several films and commercials in production. At this time, Majors is no longer starring in The Man in My Basement, an ad campaign for the Texas Rangers, as well as the lead role in an Otis Redding biopic. While being dropped from a slew of commercials and films is not equal to a guilty verdict in a court of law, it certainly doesn't help convince the public of his presumed innocence. There is much speculation as to what may have caused him to be dropped by his manager and PR agency. This ranges from Majors ignoring their advice, being too difficult to work with, or simply being guilty of the crimes he's accused of. It is very possible, and more likely, that the people working closest to Jonathan Majors are aware of certain info the public is not yet privy to, which may have informed their decisions. While his legal team has always maintained that he is not only innocent but also the victim, there was still no new statements or evidence to support their position until April 19th, when his attorney claimed to have video evidence showing the victim partying at a nightclub shortly after the attack. His attorney claims the video shows the victim is unharmed in the hours following the attack. A few days later, the actual video was released. At the same time, his attorney filed documents claiming that while in a cab together around 1 a.m., Majors' girlfriend attempted to grab his phone and began assaulting him. His attorney claims the driver of the cab can testify to witnessing the victim hit, scratch, and attack Majors, while Majors never struck the victim or even raised his voice. His attorney claims that Majors asked the driver to stop the vehicle so he could exit, which he did, and that Majors did not see the victim until later that morning when he found her half naked and unconscious in his walk-in closet. His attorney also claims the video footage from the nightclub shows the victim partying with friends, drinking excessively, and moving in a way that suggests she was not injured. His attorney also claims the victim sent inflammatory texts, showcasing jealousy, and threatening to commit. The victim told police that she suffered a broken finger and a laceration behind her right ear. However, the security camera footage apparently shows the victim freely using her injured hand and moving her hair around, which proves that she was uninjured. Alongside these new allegations, they also claim that they have video evidence showing the police coached the victim into saying that Majors put his hands on her. The video in question has not been released, and only a still image can be found online. Though this is conjecture, I would just like to point out that typically when law enforcement is trying to you, they often turn their body cameras off. They don't leave them on. You can easily play devil's advocate for any of these positions, which makes it very hard to determine who is telling the truth. Why would the victim go to a nightclub after being assaulted? Perhaps drinking with friends is how they cope with abuse. Why does the victim appear uninjured in the video if police later saw injuries on her which led to the arrest of Jonathan Majors? With the info available right now, it is impossible to say. We'll have to wait until May 8th or even later to learn more about this case. Just a couple days ago, Variety reported that multiple other alleged abuse victims of Jonathan Majors had come forward to cooperate with the Manhattan DA's office. This may give credibility to the claims put forward by Allen and Nikolai about there being other victims that have yet to come forward, however no names have been released. His attorney's response was the same firm assertion that Majors is innocent, that they have evidence proving the claims are false, and that they expect he'll be fully exonerated. While Majors has been dropped from several films and ad campaigns, there is one major role that he has yet to be dropped from, and that of course is Kang. While rumors surrounding who could replace him are circulating, there has been no statement made by Marvel Studios regarding the status of Majors' role as Kang. So as of right now, he is still slated to appear as a number of Kang variants in Loki's second season, and right now he's still on board for Avengers 5 and 6. This is not the first time that a famous actor in a lead role for a large superhero blockbuster has been charged with assault and other related charges, which has led many to compare this case to that of one Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has done a lot. Someone filmed them choking a woman at a bar, they were arrested for disorderly conduct twice, arrested for second-degree assault, had a PO issued against them for allegedly making a 12-year-old take marijuana and LSD, fled from and evaded authorities, had another PO issued against them, had yet another PO issued against them, has reportedly been housing a young mother and 3 children on a farm with weapons and contraband lying around the house, and for the cherry on top, they were arrested for felony burglary. As I was researching this case, I found more and more people comparing this to Ezra Miller's case, and saying it's unfair how the media treated Jonathan Majors while Ezra Miller got off scot-free. After all, they're still starring in DC's The Flash, so what gives? Well, not much, really. The Flash was slated to release, what, like 2 years ago? It's only just now coming out. Majors is still set to star in Loki's second season, which may not be as big of a cultural phenomenon as The Flash, but is nonetheless an equal example of previously finished projects still being released. While Jonathan Majors has not been dropped from the role of Kang and his variants yet, Ezra Miller is almost certainly not playing The Flash anymore. The movie in question is going to reset the entirety of the DC universe and will start fresh under James Gunn's direction. While Miller may have gotten a suspended sentence and probation for what they did, it's hard to imagine they'll have a career in film and media after the release of The Flash. The idea that Jonathan Majors may be a violent sociopath full of ego and a disregard for the well-being of others is devastating, and even I hope it's not true. I totally understand why fans are adamant that he is innocent, because even I thought any other reality was impossible when the news first broke. I was infatuated with his performance in Loki. I've memorized his entire monologue down to his cadence and delivery. I've also memorized most of his dialogue in Quantumania in the same way. He was so captivating on screen. He has so much charisma and is a very, very good actor. I love the character of Kang the Conqueror, and I hate the idea of such a major talent being thrown away due to a situation like this. But if Majors is guilty, then a recast is warranted. With how easy it is to form parasocial relationships and become so invested in a fictional character, it can be very hard to separate the art from the artist. Even if he's innocent in this case, it is still possible that those who know him aren't lying, and that in the real world he's a nasty person. In the event that he's indeed found guilty, I hope everyone can agree that justice for the victims and other victims is far more important than maintaining continuity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it is a really big change that will be talked about if it does indeed happen. It is possibly the easiest recast of all time, but also the most unfortunate, and not just because he's such a good actor. While the multiverse's infinite number of variants allows for an easy handwave for the recast to ignore it, the last Marvel movie introduced Kang as Jonathan Majors, as well as all of his variants, variants, all of which are played by Jonathan Majors. Like I said, it's very unfortunate. Again, finding the truth in this case is far more important than figuring out who is going to play King the Conqueror in the MCU. But there is no doubt in my mind that Kevin Feige has had meetings about this. Personally, I think everyone involved, especially his attorney, should just stop talking and wait. We will soon find out the facts of the case in their entirety during and/or after his trial in May. And it does not help his case when his attorney makes claims with absurd confidence while releasing evidence that does not prove those claims. Regardless of the outcome of the case, this incident is very disheartening. If he is innocent, then the fact that such heavy false accusations were levied against him is tragic. But if he is guilty, then this very fast fall from grace is also sort of a tragedy.